to In the Between. Just sharing a video here that I did of an interview with Jake Edwards and Dipper on the Outside the Locker Room live Thursday night program. I was lucky enough to be invited on by the guys to share with them on there. And I just wanted to give a big shout out, particularly to Jake Edwards, who's the CEO of Outside the Locker Room. To explain what Outside the Locker Room is. It's an organisation that goes around to clubs and schools around the country, and we do educational sessions on things like mental health, drug and alcohol awareness, gambling awareness, leadership in culture. We educate coaches on the signs to look out for with their players for mental health and substance abuse issues and how they best support those people. But I guess, the most important part of Outside the Locker Room is the welfare mechanism that sits on the backside of that through the app. And so there's a place where the guys can message the organisation, and through our welfare team headed up by Cindy. And then there's a raft of counsellors, 5,500 counsellors around the country through our association with the Australian Counselling Association. So I just wanted to do a massive shout out and say, I'm Jake, someone I call a great mate of mine, and I'm immensely proud of Outside the Locker Room and the work we do. And I do a lot of facilitating for Outside the Locker Room up here in Brisbane and Queensland and in the wider Queensland area. And I'm really proud that I was able to be on the show with the guys. So I hope you enjoy. And this is the Thursday night live show with Jake and Dipper.
Welcome back. We're going to jump into our local legend now. He's a guy by the name of Corey Sells, who pioneered Outside the Locker Room up in Queensland. As I mentioned earlier, Dip, we had Christy Neer on the show last week, who pioneered OTLR over in WA. Now, Corey is not only a great supporter of our program up there, but he's also a good mate of mine, someone I speak to on a weekly basis. We talk about a wide range of things. He's got a terrific story. He's a former president of a local football club up there called the Jindalee Jags, who was our first local club in Brisbane. They're a fantastic club. Corey's done a lot of tremendous work there. We look forward to having a conversation with you, Corey, and the great work that you're doing up there, mate. But you've got a tremendous story as well about your history with drug and alcohol use and recovery and rehab, which we'll talk about as well. Welcome to the show, mate.
Hey boys, how are we going?
Going really well, Corey. Welcome. I see in the background there, mate, they've got some nice jumpers up there. Have you got a collection of memorabilia yourself?
I do, mate. In actual fact, Dipper, there's your books over there.
Don't tell him
my book, which one? I've written 5, Corey. Which one?
He hasn't written them. He wouldn't have written. You wouldn't have written the books, did you?
Yeah. Well, yeah. All my books have got pictures, mate.
You colour them in.
Now, welcome along, Corey, and I know you're great mates with Jake, but also, how did you get involved with Outside the Locker Room?
Well, actually, mate, I'd listened to the Howie games and heard Jake's interview on the Howie games, and that really made an impact on me. Obviously, my story's from one of substance abuse, and I listened to Jake's story and sort of, I guess they aligned a little, and then it was only a couple of weeks later I saw 60 Minutes, and Jake was on that episode with them when that young fellow had suicided, and Jake was trying to support his family. And I turned to my partner Anne and I said, I want to meet this bloke and I want to do something with him. I've actually got goosebumps thinking about that at the moment. And it was only a couple of days later I jumped on a plane, flew to Melbourne, and met Jake at a hotel down there. And that's all she wrote. We just met, it clicked, and nearly made me late for the return flight home having such a conversation with him. And we just decided to do something. And there was another fellow up here called Andy Colenso that was pretty keen to jump on board. So Andy was president of the Park Ridge Pirates. I was president of Jindalee Jags. So we got the guys up. We ran a session at Jindalee Jags, and then Jake convinced me to be a facilitator, and away I went. I did a session at Park Ridge Pirates. That was coming into 4 years ago now, I think. And I've been involved ever since, Dip.
Yeah. So, Dip, I didn't say this off the top, but Corey is a mad Hawthorn supporter.
And
don't let the Brisbane Lions jersey put you off. That's my missus, and
under my thumb.
Hey, Corey, what number did you have on your back as a kid? Now, don't say 9.
What's that?
On your back as your Hawthorn jumper. Did you have a Hawthorn jumper? What number did you have on the back?
I actually had a 7, mate. I actually had a 7.
At a
7, Gary Ayres.
Yeah, is he?
Great
I
Gary
did.
Ayres. I would have had 7 as well. Conan the Barbarian, we used to call him.
You
Yeah,
got
the biggest card,
cards,
Corey, you know? The biggest card. But do not
Sorry,
get in the
Dick,
way. Do not get in the way of Gary Ayres, and because he ran straight. And there's a part in the 8 grand final when we went from centre half back to centre half forward, just pushing the ball in and out, whatever. And he got flicked out, kicking a couple of goals and got the Norm Smith medal in 1988. But anyway,
Corey's nickname's Cuddles.
Cuddles, yeah, what's going on there, bud?
You want to give us a story behind that, Cuddles?
Well, I guess the boring story is that whenever I see my mates, I hug them, but that's not where it came from. I actually do that. I do that because a handshake is actually a sign of distrust. It's where it was born. So when we used to meet as back in medieval days, everyone fought with their right hand. So if you were going to hug someone, you'd stab them in the back. So you'd walk in with your hands like this, shake, and then hug. So I like to meet my mates with a cuddle, but that's not where it actually came from.
I was going to say, tell the
Bit of history there.
I guess the funny side is, mate, if you give me 10 beers and I'll show you, if I give you 10 beers, Dip, you'll let me.
Yeah. What are you going to do after COVID, mate? What are you going to do after Corona? There'll be no hugs, no nothing, no shaking.
Oh, no, mate. It's very difficult. My mates are safe at the minute. It actually came from a footy trip. We went on a little footy trip up in Toowoomba, and we stayed at a place called the Wilsonton Hotel, and it's a bit of a bikie hangout actually. And our coach at the time, Smokey, had said, "Now listen, fellas, we don't want to look like we're taking over this pub. Just stick to the side, stay to ourselves. We don't want any trouble." And then over the top of my shoulder, there I was walking across buying the bikies a beer, and I'm hugging them and carried on. He went, "That's where I was."
It's a terrific story, and Corey, you've got plenty of them. Now, just quickly, let's just take it back, mate, into your personal experience and journey with addiction.
Yeah, so I guess to take it back from there, I had a fairly unstable childhood with a lot of abuse and a lot of emotional, sexual, and sort of my mother was a bit of an emotional blackmailer, and there's a whole lot of stuff that happened in my childhood. It wasn't a very conducive to be a happy childhood, I guess, and that made me internalise my emotions quite a bit, and I became quite introverted. And I guess later on in life, just as a matter of growing up, someone introduced me to alcohol, and that changed me from being someone who was very internalised, very introverted, to external. And I was out with my mates, and they thought I was great and fantastic, and everyone was laughing with me. So I attributed being accepted to alcohol really early. So I started to, I guess, create the habit of whenever I was going out into social areas to start drinking. And that went from sort of just on the weekends, being, as a lot of us do, to pretty much every day. I was on the piss every day unless I didn't have any money. And then, I hadn't touched a whole lot of drugs when I was a young fella. Experimented with a bit of marijuana, but not a great deal. And was living in a house with 6 guys, and a fellow introduced me to marijuana again. I actually said to him, I don't really like it, because marijuana made me go back internal again. And I was already living in here. I was numb. I felt, I had very little self-worth. I didn't really understand who I was. So alcohol, extroverted, was awesome. I thought it was. And then marijuana made me internalise again. So I said to him, I don't like it. And rather than being a mate to say, okay, dude, don't worry about taking any more, he said, I can fix that for you. And he put speed on the top of the marijuana I was smoking. So I ingested speed for the first time. And I guess the feeling of that made me just, feel like I was insurmountable and I could do whatever I wanted. So I quickly ditched the marijuana side of that, and I just started bombing or swallowing speed. And then that went into snorting. And then one very fateful day, another guy I was knocking around with said to me, "Hey, have you ever injected?" And I was pretty much up for anything for an adrenaline rush. So skydiving, bungee jumping, water skiing, partying, whatever I could do to try to make myself feel alive, because inside I felt so numb. And I said yes, and I think you'd call it PTSD now, but I've actually got a very, very clear memory of. I can remember the pattern on the spoon that we used, and I injected for the first time, and I actually fell in love with the risk of that, Jake, at the start. You know, that first hit and releasing my arm and my heart hammering so hard and so quick, and I had very, very low self-esteem. I'd actually had a lot of thoughts of suicide before that. It was the risk of drug use that attracted me, and then obviously the partying that came after that. So that recreational use on the weekends was speed, ecstasy, cocaine, acid, whatever I could get my hands on, I would use. And then I guess.
Sorry, mate. Sorry to cut you off there. It's just so obviously that led you down a path of regular use, and then eventually you turned things around and you got some support. So what did that support look like? So for me, I was starting to use. I was very secretive with my usage, obviously, and not many people actually knew what I was doing. But on the 15th of the 6th, 99, probably a long time before some of your listeners were born, my young daughter was born, and that night I went out for a wedding of the baby's head, and in an Irish pub in Albert Street, and I shot up that night. I carry still a lot of. I guess, and just obviously accept that now, but I'm not very proud of that moment. But the next day, I walked into that hospital and saw her lying there, and I just had this overwhelming thought that I needed to change my life. I needed to be a better person. I needed to be a better dad. And I went down in front of the hospital and I rang a mate of mine, someone I trusted, and I said to him, "Look, I don't know how I've got here. I don't know why I'm doing this or what I'm doing, but I need your help." And he came and picked me up, and he took me down to the Gold Coast to the casino actually, and introduced me to a fellow who ran rehab programs for alcoholics or gambling addicts or drug addicts, and I actually got taken to an AA session first, kicking and screaming, and then he realised that my substance abuse was much, probably not so much worse, but I was just a different substance abuse than that. So he took me to my first drug rehab session.
Corey, when you went to the AA, did you stand up and say, "Hi, I need help," or did you just try and say, "I don't know why I'm here"? It's sort of denial.
Yeah. I actually very clearly remember the conversation I had with that fella in the car park downstairs, and I said, "I don't need to be in this stuff. This isn't me." They're up there telling me stories about drinking alcohol. I drink more alcohol than most of those blokes drink. I was just argumentative, and then the fellow that was down there said to me, "I actually want you to come somewhere else, mate, because I think there's something else going on." And he took me to a drug rehab facility on the coast, and I sat in my first circle work, and I was sitting across from guys. I was actually dressed in suit pants and a dress shirt, and I'm sitting across from guys in torn board shorts and ripped singlets who are living on the street with scabs all over, and I'm looking at them thinking, "How the hell did I get here?" And that was the moment I went, I need this. This is where I'm heading.
And take nothing away from those guys. They would ask the same question: "How the hell did I get here?" You know what I mean? Because as you were talking before, it all seems to be about drugs and partying. I mean, what happens in between that? For someone who's never taken drugs before, whatever. I mean, what happens? You mentioned partying. I've got a party. Why do I have to take drugs to go partying, Jake? What's the go there?
Yeah, I guess it's just something in the Australian culture. You jumping in, Corey, with your experience as well. That we go out, we party. It seems to be the next step of progression. You drink alcohol. We know that when you drink alcohol, you're about 76% chance likely already to make the wrong decision. So it inhibits our ability to process information, to make calculated decisions.
Yeah.
Alcohol, it will bring that down, and more likely than not, you're going to make a decision based on insecurity, fear, maybe judgment. So you're around your mates, you don't want them to think ill of you. So therefore, you find yourself in an environment where next thing you know, you're using. So as much as it is alcohol and drugs, it's about people in your circle.
It was actually interesting for me because the mates that I was hanging around, they recreationally used, but I just went to a different level than them. And it was actually, for me, Dipper, it was about hiding pain. I'd had so much abuse in my childhood that I had not dealt with. Had never really openly spoke about that. and I was desperately trying to have some sort of sense of self and just feel. I just didn't feel anything. And when I finally got help, a guy called Murray Masrick really helped me through an organisation called Real Man, and he said to me, mate, for you, it's like you've got a 6-inch plate between your head and your heart. You just can't connect. And that's what it was really like for me. So my usage was really about, from the outside, everyone would have just thought Cuddles is just partying, or wasn't Cuddles back then, but, Corey's just partying and he's having a great time. But inside, I actually felt like I was dying. So that's what it was for me.
Yeah, definitely.
As a father now, how many children do you have now?
4.
Four children. Wow. And what age group were you doing this sort of partying and drugging and alcohol?
Yeah. I was around the age my kids are actually.
Right.
I was around that 22. I was married very early and had a marriage breakup early.
Yeah.
So I was around that 22 to 27.
You must be as a father. You understand now that there's a different world out there. When the kids went out, when I went out, it was beer and spirits, a bit of marijuana, as they used to call it. But I never touched that sort of stuff. But today, the choices the kids have got and the peer pressure. As a father, what do you say to your children? Like, be honest and say, kids, I've done what you think. If you think that you're doing what I haven't done, I've done everything. But you want to do something, come and tell me, and we'll go through it all.
Yeah. I talk to my kids. My kids know my story.
Yeah.
I'm very open, and my whole family does. And we've got a really supportive missus too, mate, and she's an amazing human being. She's been through her own life, not addiction, but she's been through her own life story. So we're really connected to our past and have really understood.
Lovely.
Why we presented that behaviour. So yeah, I do talk to my kids about that and what they're going to be presented with, and they may want to experiment. But I just talk to them about our story and particularly mine and what that did for me and where that led. My children hardly drink alcohol, mate.
Yeah.
They're all over 18.
But it's hard to sort of say, don't do this, don't go that road. Of course, as soon as you say don't, they're going to do it, right? So you just got to be open up. Well, the way I treated my children, and go, listen, if you want to smoke in front of me, you don't have to hide, right? You can come and smoke in front of me, and after a while, it wasn't cool anymore to smoke in front of Dad. You know what I mean? So you're trying to bring them close to it, and try to cut them off pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I think kids these days have access to information.
Online.
And
so much information. That's what the show's about. Kids out there, we're here to help you.
Sorry, Corey, you can say something?
Yeah. So we have. I understand what you're saying, Dip. I don't sort of really subscribe to some of that. We have really clear boundaries around our kids. So what's acceptable here is not smoking drugs, not having drugs here, and not coming home like that. But we just really openly talk to them about it, mate. Our kids don't fear us to talk to us about that stuff. I guess that's the difference, is that they feel like they can come and talk to us, because one thing you did say before, that there's probably nothing they're going to go through, mate, that I haven't been through.
That's exactly right. And what I say about smoking with cigarettes wasn't the other stuff, like,
Yeah.
Because I would have that in my house. There's no way known. But being an Italian boy, I would, as most Italians and migrants would know, you start drinking at the table when you're about 6 or 7, bit of soda with the wine and all that sort of stuff. And then when you become 18 or whatever, it's part of our nature. It's not something you got to run at and say, I can have a beer now. You know what I mean? Mate, I've been drinking wine since I was 6.
Corey,
no wonder you probably had courage when you were playing 89.
Corey, we can't thank you enough for joining us tonight, mate.
Yeah,
it really means a lot to share your story, and you're a terrific man. I'll put in there your bio that you're basically the mayor of Queensland football. The work you've done out there in the community is sensational. We can't thank you enough, and we're very honoured and proud to have you a part of our program. It's exciting news that I can announce that we're working very closely with the Brisbane Lions over the next 4 months in a partnership with them.
Yeah,
thanks for the great support to Kathy Reid and Stuart Giles of Epic Good Foundation that have actually put in the financial support to run that program.
And I love that little T-shirt you got on there, mate. More than just a game. We are. It is more than just a game.
It really is.
But Corey, great to hear you're a Hawthorn supporter too, my friend. you know.
Yeah.
So next time we'll come up to Queensland, we'll have a beer and a hug. Cuddles, all right?
I'll give you a hug. There's a big space up there for some memorabilia too, Dipper.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I've got plenty, mate. I hope you can afford it.
It might cost you. All right, Cuddles. See you, mate.
See you, Cuddles.
Boys. Have a great show.
What a great story, Jake.
Oh, terrific story. Terrific guy. For everyone who was listening to that, you would have heard a few things that Corey spoke about in terms of drugs and alcohol. And if anything was triggered for you personally and you want to reach out and speak to someone, that's what our program is available to do. So you can use that on our social media. You can ask any questions through there or jump on our website and message our welfare team through there. Otherwise, you can call our friends at Lifeline Dipper who do tremendous work on 13, 11, 14 and have a chat with them. But we'll be back after this. We're going to jump to a short ad break. And when we come back, we're going to jump into the new segment, Dip.
What's it called?
The Leo Barry.
Leo Barry!
Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Jake and Dipper. He's a funny bugger, Dipper. Jake doesn't go too bad either. Just one thing I wanted to clarify at the end of that is sometimes it can seem when we're going through a quick interview like that and we're talking about our lives, in a really short space of time, particularly my story there, it can sound like that I made a decision back in '99 and then my life became instantaneously clear and I was a perfect life, but it just wasn't like that for me at all. There was my relationship with alcohol actually worsened after that for a little while, particularly binge drinking, and it took me quite a number of years to understand why I was doing that, and many years in fact of why I was doing that and why I was displaying that behaviour. And there was a lot of relationship breakdown just post that decision and in the subsequent years, different relationships and work and friendships and the people surrounding me. So I just wanted to make sure I'm really clear on that it's not just a one-day decision. It really is a life commitment to change and to continue to evolve. What I would say though is if you are going through a mental health issue or you're going through a substance abuse issue at the minute, seek help, reach out to someone you trust or go to somewhere that you can trust. But stick to the plan. There's one thing I didn't do is really stick to the process that I guess those people around me were giving me. There was a points of time where I felt like I'd got to a certain point, so I was okay, and didn't really stick to anything. So I'd go back to some old behaviours. I didn't go back to taking drugs, but particularly drinking alcohol. So make sure you stick to your plan because life can get a whole lot better. And a big part of that is surrounding yourself with the right people, particularly people who will challenge you to get out of your comfort zone and experience new things and, I guess push yourself to be a better person per se, or a better version of yourself maybe. But really stick to the process and commit to making change forever and a day and begin that involvement. But look, I hope you all keep well. If you are in need of any assistance, please reach out either through myself or through the OTLR network or just with Lifeline or Beyond Blue or a friend. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you again shortly on In the Between.